Okay, everybody, you all are testing my tech skills this evening. Thank you for requesting the live captioning, the live transcription. This is kind of fun. I've not used this before. So we have turned on the recording, and at this time, I'm going to go ahead and share screen. I've got a couple people who are here live, and I think I'm going to put one of them in charge of looking at the chat so that we can make sure that if anybody puts questions in the chat that we see them. If we don't respond to your questions right away, we will be able to see them and we will respond to them before the end of the evening. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, everybody, thank you so much for being here. I am Beth Cook. I am the coordinator for First LEGO League for the state of Kentucky, and I am so excited to be starting the 2022-2023 season after what has been a very long pandemic restricted couple of years. So hopefully this year we're going to have a much more normal year, and we're thrilled to share with you what this season is going to look like and some of the changes for this season. For those of you who are brand new, who have never done First LEGO League before, whom are considering First LEGO League, we're going to be providing you with a ton of information that hopefully helps you to make your decision and makes it a little easier for you to be a coach this year. All right, so I am Beth Cook, and my email address is here on the screen right now at the bottom of the page. In addition, I typically would be joined by Bev Ketron. Unfortunately, Bev is out sick tonight, so she is not going to be able to join us, but she is our First LEGO League Explore expert, formerly First LEGO League Junior. So those of you who've done it for a few years, this is something that you may be familiar with and called Junior. Now it's called Explore. Bev's email address is there. And I'm also joined this evening by Jean Bolte. And Jean is our First LEGO League Challenge expert, what was formerly just called First LEGO League. So Bev, Jean, and I all had the privilege of working together previously in Ohio with First Robotics with iSpace. And now we're working together with Northern Kentucky University with First LEGO League Robotics. Coaches, we want to thank you for stepping up to be a STEM champion, and that's what we need, our champions for this program in order to get these programs started. Thank you for considering doing this for your school, or those of you who already are, thank you for continuing. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. And I see there's one already, so I'm going to try and see if I can't see what that is. Wonderful. Yes, we all want in-person competitions this year. All right. Page down button doesn't seem to work. There we go. We're going to start talking about First LEGO League Explore. We wanted to be very transparent about costs because costs have gone up. Costs have gone up with everything because of supply chain issues and availability of resources. So if you haven't done it for a couple of years, I apologize for the sticker shock, but we wanted to let you know what the prices were right up front. The cost to register your team with First for First LEGO League Explore is $125 plus $18 shipping and handling for a total of $143. If you're wondering why there's an $18 shipping and handling fee, it's because as an Explore team, you will receive LEGO League sets, or you will receive LEGO sets that are your inspiration pieces that your team can build with. You will also need either a WeDo Robotics, WeDo 2.0 or WeDo Robotics set for those of you that already have sets. If you don't have a set, the ones that are currently available are the Spike Essential Robotics sets. They're brand new, very colorful, lots of fun. They are $265 and it's a $15 shipping and handling cost for a total of $280. The expo fees will be set by the event hosts, and we haven't gotten those determined yet, but as soon as we have that information, we will be sending it out to all of the registered teams. So when your team registers, what does that include? That includes your first LEGO League Explorer team number. That includes your Explorer set with your inspiration models. It includes access to the team meeting guide, and it includes individual engineering notebooks for each member of your team and all of the online resources provided by FIRST. I also want to say that that team meeting guide is fabulous. It really is a very scripted, day by day, how to lead your team through a successful Explorer season. This is what the Explorer set that you will receive looks like. And this is this year's Explorer set. And it includes a little desktop mat. That's something new that it didn't include previously. It includes building instructions for 3 different LEGO builds and a variety of little pieces. Here are the different builds that it includes this year. It includes a windmill, a power station, and an amusement park ride. And these are all tied to this year's theme, which is energy, energize. I'm going to ask quickly, Jean, are you able to check the chat on your phone? Because we've got a couple questions coming in. Thank you so much. While Jean is checking that, I'm going to go ahead and continue. And if I need to jump back, I will happily do so. So the Spike, the Spike Essential Kit is the kit that replaces the We Do 2.0 set. We Do 2.0 still can be used for the first LEGO League Explorer teams. However, it is no longer available to be purchased. So you can see this is what the new Spike Essential set is. And every team does need a LEGO set that has motors in it. So either the We Do set or the Spike Essential set. And as you can see on this, it includes a variety of different motors, sensors, lots of different colored bricks, and some small building plates. It also includes a little box of extra pieces to kind of help inspire the team. You'll notice on here that the current price on it is $295 through LEGO Education. LEGO Education actually raised their price $30, but they did it after negotiating with FIRST that the cost would be $265 for teams participating in First Explorer. So if that you have a First LEGO League Explorer team and you buy your set with your first LEGO League team registration or through FIRST after you have registered, you can get that $30 discount and not have to pay the price increase that LEGO came up with. All right. And Jean and I are now going to swap places, and she is going to talk with you about First LEGO League Challenge. Here, we've got a question about Explore, so I'm going to go ahead and jump back a screen. In the those things, everything. And first, yeah. The big, okay, yeah.
What is this about 2 by 4?
Give me just a minute here, guys, because I'm trying to figure out swap. I just wanted to duplicate. There we go. So the question was that previously LEGO gave you, or you had to purchase 18-inch by 18-inch base plates on which to do all of your constructions and all of your builds. And you were limited by those base plates as to what you constructed. They have eliminated those base plates. What they include now are these small white base plates. And your team, and there is enough of them that you can give each member of your team a small base plate and they can all do constructions and then assemble them onto the paper mat all together. So let's see. There. It's a little hard to see here, but on the bottom of this page, it is a kind of a laminated cardboard mat, and it is tied to this year's theme of Energize. And your team members then can put their constructions on different areas of this display mat. It does mean that when you go to an expo or festival that you will need a little bit more space. So the hosting organizations will be giving teams I think they almost always gave teams an entire table, but this time they definitely will need to give teams an entire table so that you're able to put up your trifold board behind your mats. So, and I didn't mention that, and I should have. The Explore program is an exposition. It is not a competition. Every student who participates in Explore receives a medal. Every team receives a trophy, because what this program is about is it is for younger students, and it's all about getting them excited about participating in a competitive STEM activity, or in any STEM activity, really. And in addition to doing their Lego constructions on the mat, they also do a trifold poster called a Show Me poster, where that they demonstrate what that they've learned about this season. They can put information about their team members on it. They can put information about their Lego constructions. They will be given a challenge that they will talk about throughout the season in their engineering notebook. They can illustrate examples and responses to the challenge on the trifold poster. So all of that is part of the Explore program. Explore teams do not build a robot that then competes against other robots. What they build is more of like a science fair project that they then show and display for everyone to walk through the expo or festival and to see what that they have done. We don't know exactly what locations are hosting at festivals this year. I only know of one for certain, and that's that the state championship will include an exposition. So there will be an opportunity for any team in the state to come up to Northern Kentucky University to showcase their first LEGO League Junior or first LEGO League Explore. It's going to take me a minute to get used to that. First LEGO League Explore construction and poster. And if teams choose, they can do that in addition to a regional expo if there's one close to them. If there's not a regional expo close to them, or they're not ready and they only want to do the state expo, they can do that as well. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move forward now to first LEGO League Challenge, and Jean and I are going to swap spots.
Hello, everybody. Like I said, I'm Jean Bolte, and I'm in charge of the challenge team. So if you coach a challenge team, you'd probably, if you're a veteran coach, you probably already have had emails from me, but I am continuing in that role as well. So just a quick notice to the state of teams in Kentucky. Pre-pandemic, we had close to 175 teams, 180 teams. But since then, pandemic really took a toll on the number of first LEGO League teams in Kentucky. So we are still trying to rebuild the numbers that we've had in the past. So if you know of anybody that is interested in coaching a first LEGO League team, please encourage them. And if they have any questions, you can certainly direct them to me. So right now at this date, we just checked yesterday, we have 38 first LEGO League teams that are registered in Kentucky. So we're hoping to grow that number over the next couple of weeks to so that we have enough teams to populate the tournaments that we're planning throughout the state. So first has a lot of information about starting the team. So if you would just direct people to that, that'll give them a great head start on what they need. In our efforts to help grow teams, we're really trying to focus this year on adding additional support events to our teams. So if you are a public school teacher that is coaching, then we would really love to help you out. We have a grant, whereas a public school teacher can receive a Spike Prime set and expansion set. These were funded with monies that when we went from virtual to an in-person tournament for our championship, we took the money that we did not spend on the AV for our tournament, and we used that to buy some Spike Prime kits, so that we're really looking to help out some teams that have that are in need of something like that to help them get started. So the application is still open. The deadline is September 9th. So if you or somebody you know fits these criteria, please go to the link and apply. Also, we are doing a Spike Prime Coach Workshop. So this is to help coaches or mentors. You don't have to be a teacher to participate, just to help them with their understanding of the Spike Prime robot. It's not a brand new robot. It's been out a few years, but I think with COVID, it's still new to a lot of teams. So we're going to have a workshop to give teachers and mentors and coaches some hands-on experience with the Spike Prime robot, and also show you how some of those features of the Spike Prime can be help in troubleshooting certain aspects as opposed to the EV3. We hope that if you're participating, you're in person, but if you are from a distant part of Kentucky, we also are supplying a Zoom link. So the Zoom link are posted on this slide. And by the way, all these slides will be put in a PDF after the meeting and emailed to everybody that registered, so that in the PDF, hopefully all these slides are all live, and then you can just click on the links that are provided. And also the Prime workshop will take place where we are today, which is at the Ignite Institute in Erlanger, Kentucky. It's easier nobody has to pay for parking than if we go over to NKU. And they have a really, really nice facility here. So turning now to the cost, similar to what Beth has already explained with regard to the Explore teams, the Challenge team cost has gone up as well. And on this slide, we put not only the cost of the items, but also the shipping charges, which are added on to those sets. Most of the schools don't pay taxes, but if you're individuals might even have to pay taxes on that, I'm not sure. So if you have any question, and the Spike Prime robot set, that $450 does include the expansion set with the base robot set. So that's why that $450 price tag seems higher than what you would see Spike Prime robot advertised for. Now, when you register with FIRST, then you are given an official FIRST LEGO League team number. And so that team number allows you to register for other events. And also with that, it comes access to the team meeting guide, the robot game rulebook, and static and interactive engineering guides. The wording here is access to, because when they're initially shipping these, some of the kits were not shipped with the paper items because they were having issues with the availability of paper that they were being printed on. But I don't know if they've resolved this supply issue yet or not, but if your kit arrives without these items, you do have access to print these out, or if you just like, I think it comes with 10 engineering notebooks, expecting 10 members on the team. So if you, if somebody loses one, or you can always print another engineering notebook out to replace notebooks that might get lost or damaged. The robot rule game is the official rules for the robot game, and it does take precedent over the electronic version of the robot game rulebook. So the robot game rulebook is the authoritative voice on that, along with the updates that are published. The team meeting guide, that is for the coaches to plan out their sessions. It is, it really chunks it up into activities that hit both on the energy, the project side, as well as the technical side of the building the robots and the missions. And they just kind of go hand in hand in a nice way that talks about the different sources, the different energy, what do they call them? Energy journeys. So journeys. And it's just really, really well done. The first have really devoted a lot more resources to making better coach materials than they have in the past. Now the registration, it does not include the challenge set that you have to buy separately. And also the tournament fees, each of the tournaments will charge fees to cover like the trophies, the medals, etc., the cost of putting on a tournament. So that is set by the individual tournament. When you register with FIRST and have an FLL number, unfortunately, they tell you that that does not guarantee that there is going to be an event close to you. And right now, it's still kind of a hybrid situation across the United States where some are in person, a lot more are in person now, some are still remote, and some are the hybrid format. So hopefully we will have more in-person events than we did last year. We had 2 last year and 1 remote. Last year, the remote was the most popular option for the teams, but we're expecting as the COVID is more, people are learning how to live with COVID and I'm hoping that there'll be more in-person tournaments. Currently, we're planning for the championship to be in person at NKU. I'm just going to advance to the next slide. Now, in addition to the registration and the challenge set, of course, a team also will need a Lego robotics kit. When you register and you want to purchase a Lego robotics kit, your only option at that time is to purchase a Spike Prime set, which is currently the only robotics kit that FIRST is still supporting. But if you have other equipment, any version of Lego Mindstorms are still allowable in the robot competition. In fact, some veteran teams that have had the luxury of examining both, if they grew up learning EV3 and they acquired a Spike Prime, some veteran teams are even choosing to go back to the EV3. So if you have EV3 already at your school, that is still a fantastic option to use in the First Lego League Challenge robot game. Of course, if you happen to have old equipment that still works, the NXT and the RCX, they are still allowable. Now, a lot of schools, they have maybe an iPad, iPad tablets or laptops to actually program the programmable bricks with. But if your school does not have access to that for their First Lego League team, that is another expense that they will need to that you'll need to address. I'm going to go to the next slide. Another thing your team will need is they will need the challenge set to practice on. Now the challenge set, it comes in a long box. It's one rolled up mat and then all the Lego pieces to build the mission models. And I just want to take the time right now that just in late August, FIRST came out with a critical update and revised the building instructions for the windmill model. So if you got your set early and have already built that, you might want to go back to check to make sure that the windmill model is built according to the new updated building instructions. Now pictured here is a First Lego League official table. It's not essential, but it's very helpful to have a table. Some teams that have a level, flat, hard floor will just roll the mat out on the floor and then add some 2x4s as a frame to make the walls. That is probably the cheapest way to set up your field setup kit. But if you have more resources, it's very nice to have something that is a little bit lower than table height, so that the kids can actually run the robots. It's also very helpful on the coaches too. Because it's really hard for us older people to get down and up. The kids seem to fare better. So with the expenses, I just wanted to point out some of the funding sources. On our Facebook page for Kentucky First Lego League, I have listed some of the application links for the different funding, the grant applications and funding sources that I am aware of. First does have a site that you can go, but if I see anywhere else, then I will be posting them to that same Facebook page post. The numbers in parentheses after Rockwell and the Tennessee Valley Authority, right now 15 teams have applied for funding for the Tennessee Valley Authority and 2 from Rockwell. So if you are in the Tennessee Valley Authority area, other teams have been very successful in getting grants from the TVA, so you might also want to check that out too. Many companies, many larger companies, they will give grants if some of their employee is either a coach or a mentor to a First Lego League team. So one thing that you could do is ask your parents what employer they work for. And if it's an employer that offers these benefits, that could be a way to help cover some of the expenses of your robotics team. Okay. Now here I have the season timeline for the First Lego League Challenge teams. Well, there's August 31st, that's this meeting right now. And our next event is the grant deadline for the Spike Prime for the public school coaches. And then on September 14th, that link there is to register for our Spike Prime Coach Workshop. And then tournament registration, as Kentucky First Program Delivery Partner, we help organize and assign all the teams that want to compete into the different tournaments throughout the region. So registration for tournament will open up August 3rd and will close at, not August, I said August, no, October 3rd and close October 14th. So please make sure you register your team through this link before that date. The regional tournaments we're expecting will take place anytime from late November to mid-January. We have been in contact with some of the regional partners that have been so fantastic to have hosted tournaments in the past, but we have not nailed down all the dates and times. And as soon as we have those nailed down, we will be sending that information out to you, because we know how you like to inform your parents of what the dates are so that they can plan for that. And last but not least, down at the bottom here is our state championship. It will take place over at Northern Kentucky University, and in conjunction with that championship will also be an First Lego League Explore Expo or festival or whatever people are referring to the event. So it's great to have these two events together because the older teams can inspire the younger teams and they get a taste of what's to come. So in the first leg league qualifying tournaments, First has decided that each of the 4 things that they will be evaluated on will count equally. So the innovation project, the robot design, and the core values, which will be evaluated in the judging session, all count for 1/4 of their total score. The robot game, that is evaluated by the referees during the 2.5-minute runs. It has changed. It was like this last year, but if you have been coaching long enough, they have done it different ways. For the online audience, one of the in-person attendees asked if this was new. And at one time, First had these, what they would call robot hurdles, that your robot game score had to be above a certain hurdle in order to be considered for advancement. And that is when the robot game was not 1/4 of the score. It was just a hurdle. So yes, this is a change. Probably some coaches that are still coaching probably remember when the judging sessions counted for 1/3 and the robot game had a hurdle. That is no longer the case now. Each aspect counts for 1/4 of the score.
This is an important learning that kids gravitate towards getting points on the robot and forget about their project or forget about the other things that they don't, and then spurt them. You had in the past, one of the teams did really well on the robot, and then didn't do well on their presentation.
Right.
That's just something like this is the key thing to say today for anybody new to emphasize that it's about all of it, not just how many points you can have.
Right. So just to repeat one of the kind of summarize one of the comments made here. Basically, it's important for teams to realize that advancement goes to the best well-rounded teams, not necessarily the teams that excel in just the robot game aspect. As you can see, the robot game is only 1/4 of the score. So there are teams that score really well on the table, and it is possible that they do not advance because other teams did better in the project, robot design, and core value presentations. So yes, the presentations are a very weighted part of the whole experience. Okay. So now I want to show you this judging session flow chart for the teams. First has instructed us to use what they call a consolidated judging format. This differs from prior years. At one time, there were 3 sessions that were like 15 minutes each that the teams would go, one for each portion of each part of the rubric. But now there's just one long session, one 30-minute session, and the judges in that session will listen to all these things all in one session. So it starts out with the team welcome, and then the team will present their project. They have 5 minutes to present their project, followed by the Q&A, and then followed by the robot design presentation. And then as you see, it goes on until, and at the end, this is also new too, for the consolidated judging, the team will get verbal feedback on the spot from the judges at the end of their session. And then after the team leaves, that's when the judges score the rubrics for the team. The judges usually have about at least 10 minutes to score and rank the teams. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows, in the past, there has been an on-the-spot teamwork activity that the teams were given. This will no longer occur in the consolidated judging format. That's on my next slide. So I'll go to the next slide. And you can see on the judging session flow chart that 3 minutes is attributed to the core values reflection. And I just want to make sure everybody knows that your core values score is not based on just those 3 minutes. It is based on the entire presentation. All the judges had feedback into the core values. That also, and you might have already seen this in your robot game notebook, but the referees also have a contribution to the gracious professionalism score as well. So every time your team goes to the robot game table for their rounds, they are given 2, 3, or 4 points for gracious professionalism. They start at accomplished, so they automatically get the 3 points. And then from there, it is adjusted based upon what the referees see. So if the referees see something that is really outstanding, they might bump that up to a 4 if they feel that they exceed what is general behavior, or if they see a team that needs more development in this area, they might score it a 2. So this is added to the score that the judges see in the referees. My slides are okay.
It's doing weird things where it's
Okay.
presenting this.
Okay. Okay, sorry, we took a moment to adjust some of the slides and what was showing. Hopefully everybody can see what I'm speaking about. So moving on to robot design. The biggest change to the robot design, I think, is that teams used to have a robot table with complete challenge field in the robot design room, and they would demonstrate their robot on a real table for the judges. This is no longer done. It probably hasn't been done for, well, probably like 5 years or so now. So, but they still need to bring their robot. Bringing your robot is required. The judges need to see your robot in order to help judge your robot. But you may bring other things to help explain your design. For instance, if you have more than one robot, where one robot was what you were trying and then it evolved into a better design, you bring both robots. Of course, you cannot bring both robots. You cannot bring 2 robots to the robot game portion, but in the robot design room, that is encouraged. If you have an attachment, you want to bring your attachments. You can even bring one of your own mission models if you think that that would help show the judges how your robot interacts with that particular mission models. I mean, I wouldn't bring all the mission models, but if there's one mission that you're really proud of how your attachment interacts with that, that's perfectly allowable. You're permitted to bring whatever you feel you need into the robot design room. I mean, you're allowed to bring a poster, but a poster is not required. There is something called that some teams might remember, the robot executive design summary. that's not required, but it helps the team formulate the words that they use so that they can express themselves well in the robot design, in the judging session. So it's a good tool, but it's not something that's absolutely required anymore. Moving on, the innovation project, similarly, just like the robot design, the team has 5 minutes for the presentation, followed by 5 minutes of Q&A. And sometimes teams are surprised when they are nominated for the Global Innovation Award. It's really a separate competition that you really can't nominate yourself. You win that nomination by having an awesome project presentation at the tournament. So each region, Kentucky is its own region, is allowed to nominate a team for the Global Innovation Award. And for Kentucky, we get one nomination and we give that nomination to the team that scores first place at the Kentucky State Championship. Last year it was Schrodinger's Cool Cats, and we have had other Global Innovation Award teams, or GIA, it's abbreviated a lot, GIA nominees from Kentucky. So we're not guaranteed bids to world championships or other events. So we let you know about those tournaments when we know about them. Sometimes teams are lucky, and like last year, we had three tournaments that we could advance teams to. The year before, it was 0. There will be a world festival. So yes, but not all the states are guaranteed to get a bid to World's Festival every year.
I mean, are there some states that always get it? Just their numbers, or is it just like a lot?
It's more of a capacity issue. And First grew big enough to have 2 world championships, but then when COVID, they went back down to 1. So their capacity has changed. So hopefully there's enough capacity that they will give every region one, but we're not guaranteed of that. Maybe Beth's walking in, maybe she has some more information.
I
she
have a
can
little
start.
bit more information on this. I was actually invited to be part of the conversation about how teams were going to be assigned for the World Festival. Their intention is that every team will be able to participate, or every region. And this includes states that are one region, like Kentucky, or states that have 5 regions, like Florida. So every region and every international region will have at least one opportunity to participate in the World Championship, either in 2023 or 2024. At this time, we know there is only going to be one World Championship in 2023 and in 2024, and they will be in Houston, Texas for 2 years. After that time, First is hoping to expand back to a 2 tournament event, or 2 worlds event in 2 different locations. But right now, because of international teams' availability to travel and because of expenses, they are having to limit it to 1 tournament for 2 years. And they haven't exactly identified how regions are going to be divided into which season you will, or which year, 2023 or 2024, that you will get an invitation to the World Championship.
Okay. Are there any more questions that we did not address yet as we move to the robot game? Okay. Okay. Okay, well, that brings us to the robot game portion. And I just want to mention here, the head referee for Kentucky is Jim Laurie. And if you've been to a championship, you probably know who he is. He's been an awesome volunteer for, gosh, decade or more than a decade. He was not able to be here tonight. So tonight, stepping in for him, we have head referee Jim Bolte.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jim Bolte. I've been refereeing with FLL. I believe this will be my 18th year. And looking forward to this year. There's a lot of new things going on. It should be very, very fun. Some of the things that will be new this year are the dual launch area. The height requirement returns. We have some updates we'll go over and talk a little bit about the interactive game rule book. So we'll do all those things as we go on here. One of the first things we'll talk about, this is the robot mat. If you built your, if you've received your kit and built your models, you're familiar with this. The screenshot is from the interactive rule book. And if you get a chance to go on there, it's really well done. I encourage you all to do that and go through there. The links you see with the numbers will take you to the individual missions, show you what the scoring requirements or qualifications are for each of those. And then you can come back. We'll talk about the two semicircle areas in the lower left and right corners are new this year. In the past, you would always launch your robot from the lower left-hand corner. That was the home area. This year, FIRST has added two launch areas. See, there's a left area and a right area. The home area includes both that launch area and the portion of the table outside of the mat, either to the left or the right. So those who have done this before know that the home area is that area in which you can manipulate your robot, add any attachments, prepare it for launching the missions. In the robot game updates, there's a clarification that talks about the dual area. You can read it here. The team members must divide into two groups. So part of the reason that FIRST has done this is in order to try to motivate and initiate more interaction with more team members. So now you can have up to 4 members of your team be the technicians and launch the robots. So you can divide, you can have up to 2 technicians responsible for each of the launch areas. One on the left and one on the right. They cannot switch the sides during the match. And if you only have a team of 2 or 3, you can set it up as shown on the diagram with either one apiece or two on one side, one or the on the other. And we've kind of talked about that.
The question.
Yeah.
to Tag in different technicians.
So yes, the answer is, we have a question, can you tag in different technicians on your team? Yes, you can. But they can't switch sides. So you can, essentially, you're going to divide your team down the middle of the board initially when you come up to the table to run your robot game. And you can strategically decide who belongs with who. And you can switch members out as long as there's only two technicians at the home area at one time. Kind of along with that, I'll go ahead and talk about that. In the past, we often had either a side table or people in the team holding on to attachments. That's not allowed anymore. Everything has to remain in those two home areas. So when you come to the table, you also have to bring your attachments and divide those things among the two sides of the table. And that's kind of, if you look at the bullet points under robot and equipment here, there's some questions. So do we get to choose where the robot starts and the equipment? And yes, you do. But you can't switch robots or switch sides during the run. You have to go through the table to do that. So the question is, can you pick up the robot and bring it over? The answer is no. Once the robot is in one of the home areas, it has to leave from that area again. And we'll talk clarify that a little more as we go along. And the same thing with equipment. Once the equipment is in a home area, only the robot can transport it to the other home area. Can we grab the robot from one area to another and bring it to the other? No, the robot would have to move from one area. What happens if I interrupt the robot? So that now we can talk about the strategic portion of this. So once the robot is launched from one home area, if it's interrupted, you then can choose which home area to return it to. So that would be another way strategically, if you want to just have it come out of the launch area, interrupt it, you'll incur an interruption penalty and lose one of your tokens, but then you could bring it back to the other area. All of the other rules would follow along with that. If equipment leaves the home area with the robot, it returns to the home area, whichever one you would choose. So if you can, that's another way to transport equipment between home areas. If the robot takes it out, and the robot could actually drive it all the way from one home area to the other, obviously. If you leave one home area and the robot's interrupted, if it left with that equipment, it comes back to home, whichever home you choose to return to. Now, along with that, remember, however, if you pick up mission models or things out on the table, but then interrupt it, those do not come back home per the rule. So we have some updates before we go through if you were expecting me to go through each mission, I apologize. I'm not going to do that. There's a video available on the first website that will do a much better job of that than I could ever do over a Zoom call. I assume probably most of you have already watched that. If you have any specific questions about a mission, we'll have time at the end. I'll be glad to answer any of those. But we're not going to go over all of them specifically, but I do want to talk about a couple of just general rules that apply that we found out, especially over the last couple of years doing remote events, that sometimes people have a misunderstanding about. So if we want to go.
We're going to play a little musical tag with the screen here for a moment. So I'm going to stop sharing so that we can show you the field.
And it's not is it through the microphone or do I have to be here?
As long as you talk into her computer. All right. And Jean, you need to share from your screen.
It says only the host can share. You want to give me sharing privileges?
There we go.
Am I sharing?
Phone. Screen. You did it before.
Is that working?
Thank you all for your patience as Jean, it is showing now. You're sharing.
We switched screen. Okay,
You want to turn it around and I'll pin it.
there we go.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So the first thing we want to talk about is the idea that after your robot run is scored at the end of the mission. So things can occur. For example, if this was my innovation model for mission 1, you have to take your innovation model and it has to be anywhere within the hydrogen plant area in order to score. Your robot could have taken that out early in your robot run, but then later on during another mission may run into it and move it out. We score this at the very end, so that would be an unfortunate thing to happen, but all scoring is done at the end. And so if things change during the run, you would have to have the robot go out and fix that in order to get those points at the end. Another thing that we want to kind of talk about is the idea that the robot has to do any movement or any manipulation. So, for example, for the hybrid car mission, to score, you have to release the car from the rail. They provide a lever for you to do that, and your robot could come out and lift that lever. That would be perfectly acceptable. You would score and get those points. However, it's not required that you use that lever. There's nothing in the rules that say it must be released by lifting the lever. So if you build your robot to come out and pick it up by itself, you've met the scoring condition at the end. It's no longer touching the ramp. So if the rules don't specifically require you to do something, it's perfectly allowable to come up with innovative ways to do that. As a matter of fact, it's encouraged. Along with that, the other idea is the robot has to do everything. So for the fuel truck mission, one of the scoring conditions is to load the fuel cells into the truck. The other condition is that this truck has to make it all the way over into the filling station area. Your robot has to do that one way or another. This is an example of what we were talking about. You could have the robot bring it back to this home base and then push it out or transport it all the way over to the other home base in order to launch the mission from that side where it would be closer to the fuel station.
You somehow get back to this home base.
Yes.
You can have an attachment that pushes it up, but I can't get it from there to over there.
You
without
can't
taking-
just hand it to across
Right.
to
unless
the
you
other.
take that
Yes.
penalty.
We had a question
but
here,
what
so
we
I'm going to
hope-
go ahead and reiterate the question. The question was just to confirm, if I get the fuel truck into one home base, a team member cannot then carry it to the other home base. And that is correct. The team member cannot carry it into the home base, but the robot can push it from one home base to the other. And then the other team members can launch it from the other home base.
There's only one robot.
Another great question. Would you have two robots, one robot in each home base? And no, you only have one robot for the team on the field at a time.
But this is an example of what we talked about before as well. You could launch a mission if you had gone out and claimed the truck and brought it back. You could launch a mission from the left-hand base. And once you were completely clear of the launch area, if you interrupt the robot, you then have a choice of bringing it back to this home base or to the other home base. As long as, yes, your robot would still have to have control of the model. And then you would take a penalty, but you could bring it back here and then launch a mission from here just to push it out here. I think the scoring condition is just anywhere. Yes, touch. Okay. Okay, so we'll quickly, if you've been out to the first website, you'll know that there are some updates. These happen every year. It's always a good idea to check them regularly because these supersede any other of the rules that have been previously published. So update 1 is that they've reinstated the rule. Essentially, if you combine a mission model with any attachment or with your robot, it needs to be loose and simple enough that you can free it quickly without having to take a bunch of stuff apart or disassembling the model. It has to be a very simple attachment or a simple way of holding on to it. Most often that takes the shape of some kind of a container or crate that you're just putting the mission model in, or some kind of a hand or that's holding on to the mission model that you can just lift it immediately off of there. Hello. I'm having trouble forwarding. Oh, there we go.
Went a little too far.
Thank you. Clarification 2 regards the water reservoir mission. And the clarification is that looped water units on the red hooks score per hook, not per unit. So what that means is, well, it tells you 2 looped water units on the same red hook will only score once. So if we look at a score sheet for that, the scoring condition is if a looped water unit is completely in the water reservoir touching the mat, that would be 5 points, and that would be down on the mat. But the second way to score is if a looped water unit is placed on a single red hook. So you actually have an opportunity to score 10 points each or 20 points total by hooking one of those units onto each of the red hooks. Clarification 4 is that for those teams that do end up competing in a remote event, every year on an FLL mat, there's usually a shared mission of some kind or another that's interactive between the 2 teams that are competing. This year, it's the smart grid hand. And this just says that if you're competing in a remote event, you cannot get the bonus points for having both teams raise the hand. You can still get points for you completing that, but there's no bonus for both. And they usually have to address that every year with the remote event. And with that, I'm done. I don't know if there's any questions in chat, or if anybody has any questions, go ahead and send them in and we'll get to them. But thank you, and we hope to see you at the tournament.
A few last words here. If you have not been to the resource library, you might as well just go there and bookmark it right now, because that just has a wealth of information and a great capsule of all the season materials. That blue header at the top is a link. So if you want to click on that and bookmark it when you get the PDF, that would be great. Just a couple of notes, the rubrics are there, and under multimedia resources in the session slides, if you're a teacher that really likes to use PowerPoints to help direct your kids where to go, there are PowerPoints already in there that correspond to the sessions as outlined in the team meetings. There's also, one of the things is all kinds of links to get you a good starting point for the innovation project. They talk about all the different types of energies and have links to different energy resources. Also, if you're looking for First LEGO League information that's specific to Kentucky, there are basically 3 places to find that. One is CINSAM's Facebook page for First LEGO League teams, and this includes both Explore and Challenge on our Kentucky First LEGO League page. And am I missing the slash at the end here on this? It should, if you go to Facebook and search on that, you should be able to find it. And that's the top cover. So you'll know you're in the right place. Also, then on CINSAM's web pages at Northern Kentucky's website, there is a section that is a P12 preschool to 12th grader STEM events. And our event is always included in that category. Also in this category, you'll also find other, like our STEM to You has been very popular, and also summer camps. So we had Spike Prime summer camps. If you have students or team members that want to learn more about Spike Prime, sending them to a summer camp is a great way to just fill their toolbox with more skills. So, and I'm just are there any questions? We want to make sure that we have answered as many questions as possible while we're here with you. Are there any? Okay. Well, Beth is saying that there's no unanswered questions in the chat box. So if you did not get your question answered, you can always email us as well. So just to wrap up then, we will be sending a link to the recording and the PDF with all the active links to everybody that registered for the info meeting, because we have your emails. That's why we collect them, so we can send you information. Okay.
Thank you guys so very much. We really appreciate you joining us this evening and giving us your time. And we will make this video available along with the PowerPoint so that anyone who wasn't able to join tonight can do so at their leisure. Thank you all and have a great evening.
Do the Norse horn.
Norse horns.